Hey, hi, Haritra.
Surya, hi. Sorry, man.
Hi, hello. Okay, we are now live. Thanks for joining. Just
Lovely.
give me a second. Okay, let's get started.
Absolutely. Shoot. What do we?
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to week two of another podcast from our blockchain bytes season. Today, we have another speaker with us. But before jumping on to speaker session, as we've been running this show from quite a couple of weeks, our goal is very simple. We would like to help to add value to our audience, to share industry expert views and insights and learnings on Web3 and even traditional finance. Myself, Surya, I'm your host today, and today we have Mr. Aritra Sarkal, who's been in the Web3 segment from quite a couple of years, and he's currently working as a founding member in ANC. Previously, he's been working with WazirX and a couple of more startups in his career. I'd like to welcome to our show. Hey, hi, Haritra.
Surya, thanks, man. Tell me.
Thanks for joining today's session, Ritra. So, as I mentioned, welcome to our show. Our goal is very simple and straightforward. We started these live podcasts after we trial and tested with LinkedIn Audio Live a couple of months back. And from past 2 weeks, things are going good. We're inviting really good speakers, industry experts in this Web3, not just only especially Web3, even though we are more interested in Web3 segment. So today let's kick start our session for 30 minutes. We have 35 minute session. Maybe let's kick start your introduction about your experience, your current roles. Yeah, go on. Mike is
Yeah, you
yours.
make, you make me sound old, but yeah. Crypto, non-crypto. So yeah, I mean, it's what this. We've been building AMQ Unk for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Before that, I used to head policy and government affairs for the largest crypto exchange of the country. Before that, I used to run another company called Local LOKL, which still runs. It's a
Mm,
phenomenal company. It does
yeah.
uh, vernacular jobs, matrimony, and all of that, because that was the time when a lot of things were booming in the vernacular space in India, like the vernacular internet space in India, right? And
Mm,
before that, started another company, closed down, sold a small product to another company. But for the longest time, I used to be a journalist with Economic Times. I used to do investigations for them. But yeah,
mm,
it's and dilling dallying in crypto. I mean, as all of us start in crypto as traders, because that's what you see, because you don't see shit like that in a normal equity market, right? We all start like that, but then you realize there's a lot of more value that you can use and build on top of blockchain in between TradFi, CFI, anything, right? It's been
mm,
14 years. I also lobby a lot on the side with this organization called Bharat Web3 Association. So we have been
mm,
advocating on behalf of companies from what 2019 in front of the government
mm,
when
mm,
it was not cool to lobby, and actually, let me not use the word lobby, but when it was not cool to
mm,
go inside a bureaucrat's room or a taxman's room or a minister's room and explain them ki, bhaiya, dekho, there is something called Web3. It is just not
mm,
about there's a lot of other companies. So yeah, man, I've been advocating on behalf of the industry for the longest time. From the time it was not cool, there were only few of us back then. But so far, so good. Not that a lot of things have changed in crypto in India, legally speaking, but where am
yeah.
I?
Things are still going good, especially end of 2023, with recent updates on VDA as well. And yeah, I mean, we really appreciate and in fact, we are also part of Bharat Petri Association. Recently,
Yeah,
we've done a little bit of contribution on asset tokenization
nice.
framework, uh,
Yeah.
still floating in Telangana government
Mhm. We're
and
floating
even
ahead.
IFSCA. Yeah, yeah, you heard about recent news as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great community along with a couple of more
Great community.
communities.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, earlier it used to be just
So
exchanges. It just used to be like
yeah,
2 or 4 top exchanges because exchanges make a lot of money, right? So it always makes sense they
yeah,
pull in the cash to build something
yeah,
like this. But what I
yeah.
and I'll tell you a very funny thing. So 2019, 2020, when people like us used to go and beg crypto companies in India, the non-exchange
Mm,
companies in India, ki, please
mm,
come, be a part of this. Please come become a part of
mm,
this. We need use cases. We need to tell this story. कोई
mm.
नहीं आता था.
Yeah.
People used to be
Yes.
afraid.
Yes.
Why should I put my company and idea forward, right, and stuff like that.
Correct.
That is one thing that has changed in the behavior and the idea of the founders, because now it's much more open. This
Yes.
might, it might make sense for us also, even a small company also. Like Ankit is also small. We just started, right?
Mm.
And small companies don't go in advocacy that soon.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
a good thing which I've seen, which has changed in the larger, I would say, non Web two founders in India. So they're more open
On.
about it.
Yeah.
They're more open to talk. There's no fear in this. कि यार मैं बात करूंगा तो क्या
Yes.
होगा? Stuff like
Yes,
that.
yes, yes, yes. So let's move on to a couple of questions. I'll
Ah,
start firing you.
please,
So
please.
I've been as a founding member of multiple Web3 startups. In still 2023 this year, there are a lot of people even in my communities. Whenever I attend a couple of events, still people ask the fundamental question about the difference between the traditional finance and the so-called decentralized finance, like what you guys talk about, why you just shot down this into TradFi or DeFi. So in your
Yeah.
sense, what's the fundamental difference between these two as per a common man's perspective?
See, yeah, I'll tell you, I'll be blunt. When it comes
Yeah.
to finance, financial services, banking, you can put any amount of tech in it. Therefore, at the end of the
Mm,
day, it goes down to basics of
mm,
finance, which has those
mm,
rules, and those rule sets have been set for years and decades now. There's a reason money
yes.
works in the way it works. That's why I say
Yeah.
ki Bangalore makes a lot of tech, right? We make a lot of cool tech
Mm,
in finance.
mm,
इवेंचुअली ब्रो आपको लेंड ही करना है ना, you'll go and lend, you'll be
mm,
in a lending platform,
mm,
no क्या करोगे उसमें? आप क्या AI, आप you'll put AI or what all you'll put it. For me, it's not a big of a difference from a from a overarching view, but there are differences, which is why
mm,
companies like your and mine exist, right? That
mm,
is the reason why people like you and me exist. See, Trat, for me, TradFi, I still, and that's why I keep using the word. There has to be a convergence between these two worlds, the TradFi world and the
mm,
DeFi. DeFi,
mm,
there are only so much volumes in DeFi, right? TradFi is
mm,
massive. There are rails which has already
mm,
been built, right? So the earlier narrative, thankfully, has been changing, but I'm still not appreciative. Like a lot of chain founders keep on saying, DeFi will replace TradFi. It doesn't happen like that. There's a lot of
mm,
other layers
mm,
involved. See, TradFi,
mm,
what is TradFi? It operates through this centralized institution like banks,
mm.
exchanges,
Yeah. Yeah. Mm,
governments. There is control, there is regulation, there is to facilitate all these financial transactions and
yeah.
all of that.
Mm, mm,
So at the same time, DeFi is built on some on-chain tech, right? Blockchain tech. Which,
yeah. Mm.
honestly, I don't think majority of blockchain is decentralized. I mean, we can keep having.
Still.
We all know
Mm,
that. I mean, there are chains in India who
mm,
propagate decentralized, but they're run by four
mm,
founders who run four
mm,
nodes. So that's kind of
mm,
crap.
mm, mm.
Uh, for me, DeFi eliminates, the idea is pretty cool. It eliminates the need for central authorities. But what you need to
Yes.
understand, anybody who's building a financial company, anything to do with money, or the tech side of money on top of a blockchain, utilizing
Mm,
centralized finance resources and laws and regulations and capital. What you
mm,
need to understand in all of this is you can't remove a lot of layers in between. I mean, you can't come and tell me, all right, let's remove KYC completely. That is crap. That's not
mm.
how things
No,
work.
that we can't. Mm, mm,
You reduce the steps. That's where businesses
mm,
are built, right? So for
mm,
me, that's
mm.
the core difference. Then TradFi, sometimes because of geopolitical reasons, it's also a tool, right? I mean, money is a tool, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
access was limited by geography. Again, it
Yeah.
has nothing to do with how TradFi was built. There's a lot of geopolitical layer onto it, socioeconomic status and regulatory requirements, right? Traditional banking requires a lot of identification and credit hacks. This I'm saying from a
Mm,
definition perspective. DeFi,
mm, mm.
at the very broad level, it offers accessibility to Surya's family,
Correct.
Arithmetic family, and all of that, right? Anybody with an internet access can participate. But this line
Mm,
for me, still for me, a very important line, because I'll tell you why. Also, DeFi doesn't necessarily solve financial inclusion. It doesn't. That's one of the
mm.
worst
So it's
concepts.
basically, in a nutshell, it's not a magic tool to replace the entire
It
traditional.
doesn't. It doesn't solve financial inclusion, not solved by things like DeFi. Are you telling me you'll
Yes.
go to a tier 5 town and explain them what are wallets and all this?
No.
One
No.
thing goes here and there, that guy's going to commit suicide. This is what happened in the
Yeah.
microloan issues back in South
Mm.
India, right? So
Yes.
those
Yes.
are basic important layers. Then there are transparency and privacy, right? See, TradFi, there are a lot of transactions and operations which are not typically transient and transparent to public. But in DeFi,
Correct.
you have more personal identity, which is more private, as
Yeah.
transactions can
Yeah.
become more pseudonymous, right? But
So
that has its own.
example, as you mentioned, when we look into the villages side, still there are a lot of P2P lending platforms are existed, and
Yeah,
there's like a lot of harassments going on. In fact,
yeah,
the one who takes 5,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees loan really doesn't know that what's the interest rate of like sometimes I
yeah,
heard that like 60%, 50% of rate of return, rate of interest, which they don't know. I mean, see, still is this DeFi can really go into that last milestone and help them saying that hey, it's, you know what, don't take that decision of 50% interest rate of loan. Rather, here is a couple of options that are existed. But still, you know, we
correct.
do jump onto a conversation of okay, there is no awareness. People really doesn't care about this technology. People, that,
Yeah, yeah,
this is a basic question also when we always talk about Web3 communities. You know, we do have small communities in Hyderabad and Bangalore. You know, when we
mhm.
meet, conversations are straightforward. But when I meet a person who doesn't even know all of these, they were like, okay, you know what? I'll give you an example. When I use Google, I really don't care what protocols
Exactly,
is using.
exactly,
I just need a little small box where I just enter and get my data and sort out.
exactly,
So I think
exactly.
the narration is there from quite long, decades, but still all these Web3
I'll tell
communities
you.
trying to
Yeah,
overlap. Yeah.
uh, I'll tell you, and I'll give you a brilliant example. Because some of us were lucky to see the exchanges industry in India, because we got involved with them very early when nobody was around us. All this blockchain thing that is happening in India today, in terms of
Mm,
events, in terms of going to the government, in terms of these massive media articles, वो सब नहीं होता था. There's nothing of
mm,
that sort. I'll give you an example.
mm.
Why did the exchanges grow? अब देखो, there is a
The
blueprint
adoption,
for
the
it, right?
retail mass level adoption.
Abhi, and I'll give you a beautiful example in 2018. Now again, this is finance, so it has to be looked at from the point of view of risk management. उस पे नहीं जाते. That's
Yeah.
a separate topic. It's a very
Yes.
important topic, because I also think the way the idea of tokens were sold in India was the idea of you can make money quickly. That for me is wrong,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there are
Mm.
users,
Quick bucks.
billions of users will lose money because of that. Okay? Now,
Mm,
and you know,
mm.
retail will lose money in this entire segment.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. The average user, when people like us, we were at WazirX, the average user in a tier 3, tier 4 town, he did not care, boss, कि ये
Mm.
hyperledger है. Is this what is it? Is it a private blockchain based token, a public blockchain? He
They
understood
don't care.
that my barrier to entry was zero. I'll create
Zero.
an email ID hai, KYC hai, and I'll go. You see the
Mm.
difference here. That
No.
what that is what worked fascinatingly well for companies like us, Coin DCX, Coin Kube, the entire gang at that point of time, right? The
Mm.
problem right now that I see in most DeFi companies, they talk tech
Mm.
and not the solution. I know
Mm.
your consumer doesn't give a
Mm.
rat's ass what tech you have. You might be doing zero knowledge proof. Your grandma might be interested in it. We're not. The average consumer doesn't give two hoots about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
needs to change. अरे मेरे को नहीं फर्क पड़ता है, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Like we were explaining ZK zero knowledge to somebody the other day in
Oh.
the government. He understood because he's a
Mm.
lawmaker. But then he
Mm.
also said, in my constituency in a state in Bihar,
Yeah.
how do you even sell this as a product? You get what I so
Mm.
there's some of these aspects has to be behind. You don't talk about it.
Mm.
For example, most of the services that we use say is on S3 bucket in AWS.
Mm.
And it
Mm.
doesn't
Mm.
matter, no, for the audience doesn't need to know. So
They
those are
don't
the
care.
things, and this should not. That's not how you sell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, right?
Yeah.
Those are things that needs to
So
change.
how do we see in this gamut of awareness
Mhm.
situation? How do we
Mhm.
see that there are certain advantages still existed for mass adoption when it comes to decentralized finance? Example, we can still talk about your product and your products. Somehow, my goal is to pick up. Even yesterday's session, also I picked up one L1 layer protocol founder where he's more interested in talking about real use cases. Similar
Mhm.
like Ank also somehow solving that the bridge between
Yeah.
between the traditional finance and DeFi segment. But what are the basic like few advantages of this DeFi over traditional finance? Because end of the day, as a user, they'll always look into that, right? What am I even getting in this? Is it user adoption? Is it user awareness?
Mhm.
Is it user experience? Or
Mhm.
is there anything better that we can see that the traditional finance is missing out?
Mhm. So there are a lot of things, right? Like and but there are a lot of very simple things. Like I'll give you an
Mm,
idea from Ank also, without overpitching that my company. We
mm,
realized that, boss, there is a goon called C5, centralized finance. There's a big goon called
mm,
C5. There's also this new
mm,
coming dude called decentralized finance, whatever it might mean, right?
mm,
Uh,
mm.
there is a concept called blockchain. People are building on top of blockchain. These are the kind of ideas. These are kind of constructs. Some economic theories are being built. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Now these are the two
Mm,
worlds, right? Abhi, let's not. And I we saw what was happening in the world, and because with what we did in the past with exchange, the kind of volumes we saw, the kind of users we saw, we realized that we have cracked that idea of getting billions of users on in India in a platform. That game we cracked really well. What is the next
mm,
step? The next step, what we saw was an absolute mistake that everybody, mostly in Asia, was doing. Most DeFi companies were doing. They're like,
mm.
blockchain will replace centralized finance. My chain will replace RBI. I'm like, that's the dumbest. For an example, the first thing that we
Yeah.
did was we removed the idea, we broke down the idea of decentralization. You
Mm,
don't need complete decentralization for things to work. I mean, I
mm,
can tell you a lot of things, but
mm,
I'll get screwed online. But you need progressive decentralization. That's the thing
mm,
that people need to understand when you're building concepts like this, right? That's when
mm.
we realized we can still build a financial services company, a digital banking company, with the
Yes.
same laws, comma,
Mm.
licenses, comma, capital
Common
inflow
legal and regulations. Mm.
right from centralized finance वो मेरे को allow करती है that allows me to do all
Yes.
of this 1 2 3 4 5 I can share bin licenses from companies and all of that
No one stopped
at
you
the
to do
same
that. Mm.
time I have an inflow of users from regular users who understand these products because they're used to cards, they're used to rewards,
Yeah.
they're used to
Mm,
loans, lending and all of that.
mm,
But then we wanted to the whole idea of our company is investment. Ki boss,
mm,
Surya's family, Surya's friends, whenever they come on my platform, whatever they use, there will be some kind of investment product that they'll attach to it, right?
mm, mm,
That's when we decided in a staged manner to include decentralized finance products, right?
mm,
But we're
mm,
not calling it blockchain. We're not calling it
mm.
decentralized finance. We're not even calling it token, right?
Anything.
So that's
Mm,
when we wanted to merge all of this. Now you might be thinking merging ka matlab kya hota hai? Merging is not like I
mm,
am getting the Swift ecosystem to merge with the zero knowledge proof ecosystem. वैसा कुछ नहीं कर रहे हैं हम.
mm,
Maybe in the future
mm,
something like that happens, right? But what we are rather
mm,
doing is we are creating products on blockchain that
mm,
we are introducing to fiat channels like fiat INR channels and the same regulated environment that RBI allows me to the same Indian user. And the same
mm.
concept we're applying in Asia Pacific also. That's where we want to go next, right? So what I mean by that, one of
Exactly.
the first things that we have done is very simple, and it's not something innovative because there is another company who did this before us, right? Roshan gang when they did it with GoSats. The idea was
Mm,
Bitcoin. But guess what? Even on
mm,
our platform, we saw there were more people. There are far more people. It's been 6 months of building this 6 months of us going live, there are far more people who take gold as rewards as compared to Bitcoin.
mm,
Whatever
mm,
reason that is, right? The next step that we're getting into is real world asset tokens. Now, what I mean by that? It's property, land, and bonds. These are the three separate areas that we're going
mm.
into, right? Are we introducing them overnight? Are we depending on a chain? No,
No.
it has to be multi-chain
No.
approach. What I'm doing is basically I'm unlocking these trillions of dollars of liquidity. एक साल में नहीं होगा.
Mm.
RWA there are no laws existing.
Yes.
Bond is a huge market, and but bond is a
Yeah.
lot of
Which is
restrictions.
still getting
That,
good momentum last 2 years. Yeah.
exactly. These things we are introducing as rewards on the card. So what will happen, Surya,
Yes.
is in a month's time you'll get to see if Surya comes and swipes Ank's card, which
Mm,
is a prepaid instrument right now. There are other types of cards we'll introduce next year. Every time you
mm,
swipe my card or buy a rewards voucher, at this stage again, I'm saying there's a huge difference. One of the rewards you'll get is property in token format.
mm.
One of the rewards that you'll get is a land. One of the
Land.
rewards that you'll get is a tokenized fraction, basically a fractionalized bond. So what I'm doing
Mm,
is, yeah, I am very nonchalantly and very silently, without talking tech, introducing the same regular Indian audience to a new type of reward ecosystem. Oh,
mm.
I can swipe my card for on Swiggy and I can get land. अभी सुनने में cool लग रहा
Exactly.
है. It's a process in the
Mm,
back end. There's a massive legal process. There's a massive tech process which has been set at the back end. So
yeah.
that will happen. Then comes the buy, sell, and the entire exchange and the derivative
Exchange.
format. So you
Mm,
divide it like that. That's how you introduce a product to the audience. So that's where we are coming from. Then
yeah.
it goes into other ideas, which like one which is live on the website, which is also something I think if I think stable coin companies and a lot of on-chain companies can actually do it fantastically well is the lending part, the loan part, right? We're also doing lending,
Yeah.
but we're doing it really
So
differently.
so before, obviously, we have a couple of more minutes to
Yeah,
jump on to understanding what is your product suit,
yeah,
especially very interesting one. I'd like to highlight that. But before jumping onto that, since you've been into these legal and regulatory uh, uh,
yeah,
aspects, So
Yeah.
what do you see that there are like at least do you see that at least major three blockers when it comes to legal and compliances on adopting this DeFi on the an existing traditional finance? Any sort of blockers that you think is to share it with us?
Yeah, it's a yes and no, because see, anonymity beyond a point doesn't work in these kind of places. Like, see, we also used to have torrents, right? See, I'll give an example.
Yes,
Look at the music
still
streaming.
existed.
Yeah, the way it has evolved, right? The core tech
Hmm.
was torrent. I mean, uh, your
So say
best
blockchain. Hmm.
the best example, and the reason I give this example every time, even to governments and locally over here, look at how your music streaming sites, without naming them, obviously have evolved. The
Hmm.
best music streaming app, which I'm talking about, that
Hmm.
was once a competitor to a Pirate Bay,
Pirate Bay. Hmm.
the torrent-based download system those days, right, from Sweden.
Yes, yes. Hmm.
Same thing needs to happen in DeFi, and that's when the regulatory
Hmm.
challenges come into place. One is,
Hmm.
see DeFi, the way it is of most of the companies that I also consult also and seen,
Hmm.
it lacks. The first big challenge is, boss, you're building financial services on top of blockchain related environments.
Hmm.
In an environment, then there is no regulatory regulations. There are problems. Why am I saying that? If
Hmm.
tomorrow um, a Blur kind of platform shuts down, I've lost all my
Hmm.
money, bro. Where do I
Hmm.
go? Where do I see that company? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Not
and we've
necessarily.
seen some use cases also in recent times. Hmm.
Exactly. So that's the first problem. And this is where
Hmm.
I think more matured founders need to come out and work hand in hand with the government. Governments don't, this entire structure of how countries are run are not going to end tomorrow. Please
Hmm.
understand that, right? So
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
the biggest problem. This is where India has done phenomenally well on the FIU side, the financial intelligence unit side, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
There were
Hmm.
few of us 4 years ago when we were talking to them. Now, though, it's a great thing that a lot of companies are part of the larger virtual assets thing under
Yeah.
FIU,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Regulations.
That's
Hmm.
first. So absence of clear regulations hinders the adoption. Please understand. It's very important.
Hmm.
Then
So,
comes
do you
the
think that India is still leading the compared to other countries on this aspect when it comes to regulations, or
no.
still lacking of it? Hmm.
India does lack regulations. India
Hmm.
lacks clarity. India, there is
Hmm.
no clarity of, boss. If tomorrow I build, like if tomorrow Surya and Aritra try and build a company between each other, and I
Hmm.
want and one of the layers of that company is a token. The biggest
Hmm.
challenge is, ask any good lawyer, they'll tell you, can I launch the token in India? Because
Hmm.
my launching of token is the way I'm going to raise funds, whatever, IPO,
Hmm.
ICO, जो भी होता
Hmm.
है. Can I
Hmm.
do that? Is there a structure, a legal structure in India where I
This
can
exists.
register
No.
a token? Like, is there an
No.
NSDL or a CDSL for crypto? You get the direction
No.
I'm going.
Yes. Yes.
We to core hai na. The
That's.
base is that you take
Hmm.
out a token and see which companies in this environment is going to raise money from the
Hmm.
VCs that are there in crypto. Nahi hoga, right?
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
other companies like yours and mine which work in a very different environment. So
So
I
primarily, the legal aspects is not ready yet. The regulations are not ready yet, even though we are making certain progresses, which most people are aware of it. Let's move on to
yeah,
further because I have some insights on Xcard
yeah,
and Ang also. So let's first
yeah.
understand what is Xcard under the hood of or the product suite of Ang. And how's that different from typical credit card rewards that we typically use it in even in airports or wherever? So.
That's so it comes from the same family of card products first. That's one. It's
Hmm.
a prepaid
Backed
instrument.
by Rupee, I guess. Mm,
It's a Rupee back card. It's a Rupee back card,
mm,
and it's we've collaborated with Pine Labs to make the card live in India because they have the
yeah,
license, right? License to do that
yeah.
in India. We share that license
Mm,
with them.
mm, mm.
How is it different now? Can I compare it to
The traditional cards.
absolute
Mm,
tier one credit card? I wouldn't do that because they're very different fundamentals of cards. Because see, this is one of the instruments which we have put in the market. Now, January onwards, you'll see
mm,
what all is getting launched.
mm,
Now,
mm,
right now, if my maths goes correct, it's the best rewards card in India because I give uncapped rewards. There is
mm,
uncapped rewards. There is lifetime value of the rewards, meaning
mm,
it does not expire. There are no point system in between. Ki boss Surya makes 100 points, then you'll get 2 rupees, and the 2 rupees is your
mm,
reward. I rather we
mm,
decided to change the behavior in a format where the whole idea was you spend, but while you spend, you will earn. You will earn in instruments which might go up in value, market link rewards basically. Might
mm,
go up in value or might go down in value, right? Rather than giving you
mm,
dumbass points and dumbass offers, which doesn't make any sense, right? It's
mm,
a
mm.
sort of a behavior pattern change, but yeah, that's what it does. And the rewards
Even
doesn't go
even
down.
I've seen that there is an insight that recently using this X card, I think. most shopped voucher is from Swiggy, like close to around 78% of bounties happen, is it?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Where do you get the number from, dude?
And obviously we'll definitely do certain research, but that's one
Yeah,
interesting point, because you
yeah,
already added a lot of value to Swiggy customers and
yeah,
users. But
yeah,
apart from that, the most important aspect that I've seen here
yeah.
is an average time spent is also close to around, I think your app released how many months back?
Dude, we released this to the public January, February, March, April, May, April end. We released it to the public this April.
So close
To
to
March.
within like last 2 quarters.
Oh yeah, yeah. And today I
Yes.
have more than
And the average user spent on that is 20-23 minutes
yeah,
still
yeah.
current.
It
Wow.
might mean two things. Either it's a great app or it's not working in a certain sense. But jokes apart,
So
yeah,
how do you
that's
see that when it comes to user adoption of these app? And definitely you should have user behavioral tools backend, and you've added one nice input on most users are female adopters than the male one, especially on the TradFi and the
yeah,
DeFi tool like this.
yeah.
Why? What is that one secret sauce for that interesting factor for the female audience, especially in India? Because this is a diverse user behavior. We've seen
Yeah.
that in even on Amazon, Flipkart. But what is
Mm.
one factor that it separates your Ank and Xcard to compare to other rewards program tools?
Dude, so here's the thing. One, and I'll there are three specific points to this, right? One is we charge upfront. Unlike most companies, we charge upfront. We said, boss, I charge a 14.99 lifetime, one-time lifetime fee that I charge.
Hmm.
Look at any other fintech which has come up with due respect, because some of the most of the founders are
No
also investors.
transactional fee, is it? No transactional fee.
No, no, I'll break it down. I'll break it down. So this is
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
fee that I charge for you to
As an
come
onboarding
to
fee.
use
Hmm.
services. It's an onboarding fee, one-time charge. Why
Hmm.
do I do that? I'm not going to give anything for free right now, right? I do
Yes.
not want random users on the platform. You don't build a
Ah.
business with random users, right? And
Yes.
and and look at the other fintech. Everything has been made free. It doesn't work beyond the point as a business model. Today, I
Hmm.
have a lakh 15 plus users, right, who
Hmm.
have paid and come to my platform.
Hmm. Hmm.
Go and check the numbers of other companies who have done it. These are
Hmm.
users, Surya. You see the behavioral pattern here. If you have a lakh plus users
Hmm.
who have paid a certain fees to use an app in India, boss,
Hmm.
that user has
Hmm.
the capability to spend more.
Spend
For
more.
me,
Yes.
lifetime
Yes.
user, that's a quality user.
Yes.
That one
Yes.
user is much better than hundreds of free users
And
that
then
I've acquired.
100.
From that standpoint,
Agree.
right? So we were
Agree.
very clear. That's why our user growth has been.
So I
If
think
we,
that's where your product suite contains different more other products, right? Like Encash, we've seen
yeah,
Encash, and the NFT cards solution, what quirky
working.
something,
It's still not live
quirky,
yet.
I
I
guess.
mean, but yeah, it's in the
It's
background.
not live yet, but I think as part of your roadmap, you're building these suite
Mhm.
of products,
Yeah.
pack of products on top of Ank itself
Mhm.
to really acquire these users, the honest and authenticated users.
Yeah.
As a user, still, do we really need to use the that so-called third-party non-custodial Web3 wallets like MetaMask, or not needed?
So on our platform, we collaborated with another partner called Mudrex, right? They are a custody partner.
Mudrex. Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
And there's a reason we went. We evaluated a lot of other partners. There are a lot of custody players in the world, right?
mm, mm,
You also know how custody solutions are built in the world,
mm,
especially on,
mm,
right?
mm, mm,
Custody solution is not about just building a wallet. That's kind of dumb, right? I mean, that doesn't make any.
mm,
I know iota of for me, it's just plain and simple vanilla dumb, right?
mm,
So now that's one. So that's why we collaborated with Mudrex, because they give us an entire suite of custody solutions where there is it's
mm,
insured, secured, and there are a lot of layers to it. There is
mm,
multi-chain support. I'll go into it sometime later, but that's what we've been using, right?
mm,
So can you attach your other private wallet, your individual private wallet to this? Yes, you can when you're trying to withdraw your bounties. But
mm,
my rewards and my core custody, like the bank of crypto, sits on a Mudrex's platform at the back end
mm,
so far, and it's been
mm,
phenomenal so far.
mm.
The last 6 months, from a compliant manner, from a architecture. So yeah.
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 So sounds good. So we just want to understand what is this Encash, and how is it different from, again, a traditional loan system. I think we've seen that your company is
Mm.
also partnered with I don't know, Oxy loans. I don't know what it is, but yeah.
No,
So how is
no, no.
this Encash is different from others?
So it is very different, I would say, different and also not different.
Mm,
Um, we partner with we partnered with two of the largest, one of the largest, probably the largest NBFC in the country, right? Liquid Loan, and
mm,
there's another company called Samrat Motor Vehicle Finance. That's why I said real world asset part, real TradFi partners, and then you bring in DeFi partners, right?
mm,
Now,
mm,
what does Encash do? Very simply, without going to further detail, we are still yet to launch it to the public. It is a
mm,
digital asset backed in INR loan. Right now, INR loan.
mm,
Eventually, if we go to other countries, it becomes their currency loan, right? What do you mean by that?
mm, mm,
In today's world, right now, as we speak, launch in a few months. If Surya and Aritra has, say, certain stable coins that is
mm,
approved by
mm,
my risk team.
mm,
Surya and
mm,
Aritra
mm,
have certain Bitcoin. As of now,
mm,
this,
mm,
comma. If Surya and Aritra have certain kind of risk approved real world digital assets.
mm,
Those
mm.
token, they're all token. Point being, they're all sort of collaterals. You take
Correct.
that
In
collateral,
the form of
digital,
tokens. Mm, mm,
you
mm,
put it on my platform as security, and against that
mm.
security, you take a
You
INR
get a
loan,
loan,
and whatever
INR
LTV.
loan.
It depends
So it
on
starts
my.
with stable coins, right from USDT to any. So you will have the verification method of these tokens to
Oh yeah,
prove
yeah,
that there is a certain collateral attached or certain ownership attached to these tokens. There is a value attached to these tokens, and
exactly,
then prior approval, your
exactly,
mechanism approves a certain loan, decides a certain loan,
exactly.
approves loan. Mm.
It's like think of how you did gold loans, right? You have gold, you
Gold
need some
loans, yeah, yeah.
cash. You go to the bank, you keep, or what do you go to
Mm,
another small
mm,
company?
mm,
Keep your gold. That's an
mm,
asset. Against that, you take
mm.
loans against that, right? It's
Oh,
an
so I
agency
think
that.
then I mean, there is a lot of use cases, right? Right from I think these alternative investments, which we've been hearing from the bonds to
Oh,
solar projects, even real estate, alternative fractional real estate. I think people slowly will adopt this and try to. Even we plan to inject this
mm.
as a loan mechanism, but still we are not yet in that stage because we are still in the process of creating awareness about what are these asset-backed tokens. We call it as typically asset-backed tokens, which was
In all of this,
nothing but
Surya,
a
that's the thing I've been telling. Uh, that's the thing I'm telling a lot of people in the asset tokenization framework. It has less to do with the technology part. It
yeah,
has absolutely 99% to do with the legal framework part. Like for example,
yes,
you have what's that agreement called in India? The power of attorney, right? You have something called power of attorney.
AGP, general power of attorney.
But in digital asset space, ऐसा तो कुछ है नहीं. There's nothing like that. So
No,
we in our side we have created something called the custodian agreement, right? Which I don't think
mm,
any government in India has done right now. So
mm,
that's in a way a digital rights, sort of digital rights to the same physical property or whatever bonds or
yeah,
any of.
yeah, yeah. Mm,
So
mm. Sounds good. So how do we see this quirky? What is this quirky? By the way, the name itself is quirky. So what is this quirky?
Quirky Dude is one of our other product lines, which is an NFT card. Basically, the whole idea was if you have, as a company, this is only
Mm,
for enterprises and large companies. If as a company, if
mm,
you have a bunch of NFTs that you want to give to your community slash
mm,
users, you
mm,
collaborate with us where you integrate your NFT on top of the card in terms of a
mm,
print. NFT goes
mm,
on top of the card, and also the
mm,
information about that NFT gets put on that card. So basically, that card becomes a lifetime card for you in terms of access or any of the activities that that particular NFT will allow you to do, right? Staking and all of
mm,
that.
mm,
That's
mm.
the idea of working, but yeah, I mean, it's still in the works. Honestly, it's been a year, but
Still in the
that's
process.
what.
Mm, mm.
Uh, so,
Cool. So let's move on to. I think we've like 4 minutes delayed, but we'll conclude that quickly. Before jumping onto
uh,
this, tell us if you came across recent trends and on-chain activities, because this is where you've been interested to discuss about on that
uh,
on these on-chain what kind of on-chain activities that actually impacts this traditional existing traditional finance.
impacts like okay, I'll try and put it nicely. So one
So
is
apart
your
from the transactions, we've been seeing all the transactions can be audited, tracked, all that. But apart from
mm,
that, what kind of yeah, go on.
mm, one of the things I'll still put it upfront because in the process of looking at every custodial solution last year, the reason we went out with Mudrex, with all honesty, and I've
mm,
seen what other custodians do. So, custody of digital assets is very important.
mm,
It's kind of, I still think it's a very important theme because I know of licensed custodian companies,
mm, mm,
government license. Singapore also gives a license, by the way, for
mm,
custodians.
mm,
I know licensed companies which have shut down this year and nobody is talking
mm,
about it and they've just
mm,
messed around with the money. But
mm,
custody of digital assets for me, see on one, it's still one of the most important themes for me going forward because somebody has to solve that in a much more neater manner with proper
mm,
security and regulations being right. So at the institutional level, basically, what I'm saying is at
mm,
the institutional level, you need institutional grade custody. It's very important. Then
mm,
that's one. Then you have your digital bonds. Dude, look at the value of the bond market. Look at what
mm,
look at the bond market in Europe. Look at the bond market in India.
mm.
Now, India
In
has
India,
regulations, rules,
very,
and all, and
yeah,
because of
very
which it's not.
small, very,
Okay.
very
Dude, you
small.
can open
Mm,
this up for
mm,
maybe accredited investors like you, companies like
yes.
yours and mine can, because we are already working on. That's why I'm giving this example. It can be a
Mm,
service that you're building from India for a certain
mm,
bond market in India, but then the tech remains the same. It's just the new
mm,
legal architecture back in Europe. So then you make investors, HNIs from India and HNIs from across the world to invest in these tokenized bonds and whatever the bonds can be from
mm,
Europe. People
mm.
legal hassles across border, but digital bonds, man, somebody has to do it properly. Somebody has to solve the cross border thing and the legal part. Okay, that's one. Then you
That's
have,
not just applicable this when it comes to cross border. That's not just applicable for bonds, right? There are a lot of other assets also
oh yeah,
invested.
like
Still,
tokenized,
still. Mm,
like security tokens. Like, can you and me invest in a particular fractionalized asset legally, sitting out of
legally.
Bangalore or Hyderabad in, I don't
Mm,
know, maybe in Vietnam? Can that work out, right?
mm,
And stuff like that. The
mm,
security tokens, for
mm,
me, it's very critical. Then DeFi, the other aspect where there's a lot of very quietly, and this is where see, sometimes big money moves very quietly, right?
mm,
So
mm.
you and me would have read or heard these debates on climate change, right?
Yeah.
ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance.
Governance. Yeah.
That's a
Governance.
very important measure assessing companies' sustainable practices. Now, the way ESG is done today, I mean, let's not even go into that. But crypto assets already on one side face a lot of critique because of their environmental. We keep hearing these debates. So Bitcoin is costing using so much energy and all of that, right? So ESG assets, tokenized ESG assets, blockchain, lot of capital is being infused in that in terms of funding to companies. Very quietly, companies are being funded. Look at Dubai. Your what's that authority name? WARA, I think, Digital Asset
Mm,
Regulatory
mm.
Authority, right? Look
DFSC
at,
and Vara. Mm.
yeah, they introduce ESG disclosure requirements, boss. So
No,
that
but
can,
when it comes to ESG regulations, even SEBI is also working on very
yes,
aggressively.
yes, yes,
In fact, they released regulations for ESG even before releasing regulations for fractional ownership or even
yes,
bonds. I think some
exactly.
other
Yeah.
they started looking into credit rating agencies for ESG bonds also, right? Especially on the
Yeah.
sustainability point of view. If they don't see any adoption, why they'll create regulations. I think we're missing
Yeah.
out that a gap when we discuss with this existing credit rating agencies where they give the rating to these bonds, right? A rated bond. Uh, they really don't like they don't understand or they don't even need to know how we are solving these cross border transactions, and obviously without which it's very difficult to create awareness. Either you have to solve this cross border transaction system or create more awareness, as what SEBI is doing right now. But sounds good. I think we can see that Ank will somehow solve this gap of between these traditional assets and the decentralized assets. With, as you rightly said, the custodians will
Yeah.
play a huge role since we don't have much old legal structures for these. Happy to hear and happy to see that. So
Like
concluding
simple
that,
things. Like
yeah.
simple things. Like you have
Mm,
NSDL and CDSL in India, right?
mm,
Think on that terms. Think on that terms.
mm.
What can you build a chain which helps eventually do something of that sort?
But
Custody.
adoption also requires, right? The awareness. So say again, there are two issues, right? One is the awareness from the users that they need to understand. Sometimes they don't need to even care. Second one is the bureaucrats. They also need to understand, or the players The
Uh,
bureaucrats and the players also has to understand, does this even really solve their existing problem rather than bringing a new problem to their table, right?
I think
So
the way to look at this, and which is what I've admired about certain US based crypto companies and all of that. The way to look at all of this, honestly, is you need a little bit, and I'll be blunt. I won't mince
mm,
words. Yeah,
mm,
I've seen these cycles, man. I've seen all these kids come in crypto this
mm,
year.
mm,
They talk about fundraising and all of that. Boss, my last company did more volumes and more profits than
yeah,
the entire crypto industry in India has raised money.
yes,
Okay, so let's not even
yes,
get there.
yes,
So
mm,
there needs to be more seriousness from
mm,
what you're building using blockchain.
mm,
Just
mm,
taking a idea and pushing it ki boss ये तो immutable contract hai. I don't
mm,
care. Government doesn't care. The user doesn't
mm,
care. They don't care two
mm,
hoots about it, right? You might be building some, I don't know, some decentralized architecture. Great. See, what I'm saying is all these liberal talks sound cool,
mm, mm, mm.
but it doesn't translate into business, right? Pardon, sorry for the
Yes,
back. But
no problem.
that's what I'm saying. But there is business opportunity. I'll give you an example. I'll leave this note. There's a company called Zappel. I love that
Zapple.
company, Zappel Technologies, and I keep pushing,
Mm-hmm.
telling them in public, although they hate me doing this. Never comes to any events. I've never seen them come to
Mm.
these blockchain weeks.
Mm,
I call
mm,
them
mm.
Ganesh Mela in Bangalore, right?
Yeah.
They have been doing some phenomenal work with state governments, direct
Mm,
benefit transfer schemes. They
mm,
recently did something with the HPCL, the Hindustan Petroleum Boys, right, and all of that. That who when I was recently telling this to a protocol in India, a protocol from
mm.
outside who's come to India. They're just
Yeah,
wasting money
yeah,
on doing dumbass hackathons.
yeah.
I'm like,
Mm,
state governments have projects, they have money, they will give you, collaborate, do a partnership with them, but you don't.
mm,
The hierarchy needs to change. That's all I'm saying.
mm,
There is
mm,
business to be done in India through chains, but you got to be smart about it.
mm.
You have to move away from the whole idea of hackathon karo, event karo, community karo. Stop wasting your money and time. We
Yeah.
have done this for years
Mm,
before anyone of these guys came, right? So ye karo.
yeah.
Zappos is a great example. There are another company who are doing that in India. Look at what's happening in Singapore. Look at what's happening in some of the European countries.
So
It's happening.
we have an example. There is a company called Terrazzo, and from
Hmm.
IFSCA, sorry, from Gift
Uh,
City.
City,
So
correct, correct.
they're very quiet. They never,
Yes.
as you rightly said, they never joined. They're very strong at regulations. They're been closest people for IFSCA to draft this,
Nice.
regulatory
Nice.
suggestions.
Nice.
And the similar journey also happened in 2000, I think 6 or 8, when we got to know these boom of payment gateways, right from Razorpay to different players. You know, when RBI was kind of a mystic state, where how this really helps Indian audience, but as a startup,
Yeah.
Razorpay really picked that up. Rather become allies, they become friends. They work
Nice.
together, collaborative with
Nice.
RBI. They become a advisory. So I think we've seen that change. The adoption is definitely there from bureaucrats and the regulators, but same thing applicable to even Web3 association, as you mentioned.
Oh
If
yeah,
they
yeah, yeah.
really don't have interest on this segment,
Yeah.
take an example of Telangana. Last couple of months they've done this regulatory
Absolutely.
framework. Still, some progress is still going
Big.
on due to because of
But
local
Surya,
politics. Yeah.
that's big. The entire asset tokenization thing that has happened through
No, I still remember like couple of months back when one of our leader, Prasanna Lohar, has been creating voice on that. No one really bothered about understanding this framework when he suggested more than what we have to create like more than 100 pages document. We're
yeah.
like possible? Is it really possible to create? Like, obviously, there is a call from local government to
Yes.
solve their land records and the ownership titles, and also find out a way to fractionalize that their inventory. Right now Hyderabad has a lot of inventory.
Yeah.
It's highest inventory right now compared to other states, but they have the problem, as you rightly mentioned. State government has the problem. They want to adopt the users, right from retail to institutional to even HNIs, NRIs, even outsiders. They're happy because they've seen the same growth in Dubai. So no one believed it. Now after 6 months, now all these hackathon players going and taking really good shots there. I think there are changes happening. We
Oh, there
just
are.
need to hold on. Yeah. So
Telangana
we've seen
government.
the journey of even. couple of CFI to DeFi exchanges. Things are going good. You know, it's all about sustainability. What we also believe in. We are also one of tokenized real world real estate platform from Hyderabad, from T Hub. So we've been working closely with bureaucrats. You know, it's as you said, right? Big money moves in silent way. So I think big decisions always moves in silent way rather than crowd. But eventually, the participation should be there. And thanks for joining today in our show. I just have a final question, just
Please,
to
please,
conclude that. So
please.
how can we see the ANG's roadmap for next couple of maybe years? Yeah.
No, it's pretty clear. Like if you would have noticed, we have stayed away from three things. We don't do announcements. Like even our fundraise, we've never told, and we'll never talk about our fundraise. Also, we keep very quiet in terms of what we're doing because the thing is, the day we'll talk is the day you'll see my company doing a lot of dollars and rupees in profits. That's the day I'll do a story. That's the day I'll say. In terms of
Mm.
a roadmap, Surya, honestly, next 1 year, next 2 years, let's take next 1 year. Next
The
1 year, you
target
can
the target country is India or outside?
India plus outside, slowly and
Both.
gradually. More APAC, to
Mm.
be honest. It's going to
Mm.
be real world assets. It's going to be lending. It's going to be other types of cards which you're going to see come from us. So basically, we are slowly trying to create a
Mm.
digital banking suite. The boss
Uh, uh, mm. Mm.
cards,
Financial
rewards,
tech stack. Mm.
RWA.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
On the consumer stack, also from the B2B angle.
B2B. Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm. Sounds good. So
Yeah.
can we try out onboard X card, try out install? Can we get the X card in our hands? Then how much
Go
time
ahead.
takes?
It takes what? Less than 2 minutes? Like
Okay.
you apply, you get. No, for the
So
physical
do
card,
we
you'll get it
also,
3 days.
yeah,
So
offline card,
it takes 7 days. 7
7 days.
to 10 working days, max 10 working days.
Okay, okay.
Hmm.
Sounds good. Great. Thanks a lot, man. Thanks for joining our session.
Thank
In
you.
fact, we've like 15 minutes, delayed, but I think the conversation went really well. I hope
Yeah.
audience got some really good sense. We'll republish this content as well, specifically
Yeah.
the questions that I've mentioned.
Hmm.
And happy to connect with you back, man. We'll catch up.
Hey,
Thanks,
man,
man.
sir.
Thank you. Bye.
Keep building. Thank
Bye.
you so much. Bye. Bye.